My family is in the worst mess. Brooke doesn't talk to us. She's had twins.
That was Linda Hogan revealing how she and Hulk have been completely cut off by their daughter Brooke just months after Brooke accused them of mental and physical abuse. Now it is all in court, and Brooke's testimony is exposing how deep the damage goes. Some of it directly connects to the circumstances surrounding Hulk Hogan's death. Brooke's bombshell allegations have broken the family's long silence. In the history of professional wrestling, few families have been as publicly celebrated as the Hogans. For decades, they represented the American dream. A legendary wrestler, his beautiful wife, and their two talented children seemed to live a charmed life under the bright lights of fame. But on March 27, 2025, that carefully constructed image came crashing down in the most devastating way imaginable when Brooke Hogan, now 36 years old and a mother of newborn twins, made the courageous decision to shatter the silence that had protected her family's darkest secrets for nearly 3 decades. Brooke explained her reasons for cutting off contact with her parents and alleged extreme verbal and mental abuse since childhood that often turned physical. This was not a moment of anger or a cry for attention, but a carefully planned public statement representing the final act of a woman who had endured years of alleged torment before finding the strength to speak her truth to a world that had idolized her father as a hero. The power of Brooke's revelations lies not only in their shocking nature, but also in their heartbreaking detail and the calm precision with which she described her experiences. These were not vague accusations or emotional outbursts, but specific and documented examples of abuse, including hateful text messages and humiliating public confrontations that deeply damaged her confidence and self-worth. Her measured language suggests someone who spent years processing trauma, working with mental health professionals, and documenting patterns of behavior until silence was no longer an option for her survival. The allegations gained further credibility through the testimony of an unexpected witness, Bubba, the Love Sponge Clem, who despite his own controversial past with the family gave supporting evidence during his divorce case. His account described a home where violence toward Brooke was common and witnessed by several people over time.
Racist. I definitely would not want things that I say behind closed doors, and I'm sure you wouldn't or anybody else watching. Nobody would want their lowest moment to be filmed and aired for the world.
This testimony is especially damaging because it describes abuse that appeared random and unprovoked, revealing a pattern of violence unrelated to Brooke's behavior and rooted instead in her mother's psychological instability and abusive tendencies. To grasp the full weight of these allegations, it is essential to understand who Brooke Hogan was in the public imagination and how drastically different her real life was from the image the world was shown. She was the adored daughter prominently featured on the VH1 reality show Hogan Knows Best, which aired from 2005 to 2007. The show portrayed what seemed to be a loving family dynamic, with a caring father struggling to accept his daughter's growing independence while maintaining strong family bonds that many viewers admired and aspired to emulate. Audiences saw a teenage Brooke facing the usual challenges of adolescence: dating, career ambitions, and conflicts with her parents, while appearing to be supported by a family devoted to her happiness and success. Hulk Hogan was depicted as the protective father determined to keep his daughter safe from the harsh realities of the entertainment world, while Linda Hogan played the role of the peacemaker who balanced her husband's protectiveness with her daughter's need for independence and growth. According to Brooke's recent revelations and corroborating testimony from witnesses like Bubba the Love Sponge Clem, however, this television portrayal was nothing more than a performance masking a far darker truth behind the scenes. The show that was meant to celebrate family values and strong relationships actually hid dysfunction and manipulation. Former wrestling executive Eric Bischoff even remarked on his 83 Weeks podcast that Hogan Knows Best accelerated the family's collapse by exposing private issues to public scrutiny and deepening the very cracks it sought to conceal. Brooke described being lied to, manipulated, and used as a pawn while others profited from her pain and public humiliation. She recalled being pressured to defend inappropriate behavior publicly, likely referring to her father's racist outburst, only to later realize she had been misled. The most shocking example came in 2015 when Hulk Hogan faced massive backlash after a leaked transcript from a 2007 sex tape revealed him using racist language, including the N-word, while discussing Brooke's dating life. The recording showed him expressing discomfort with his daughter dating a black man and making explicitly racist comments that stunned fans and shattered his image as an all-American hero. At the time, Brooke defended her father in interviews, speaking with apparent sincerity and insisting that his words were taken out of context or didn't reflect his true character. But in light of her recent testimony, those defenses now appear to be part of a painful pattern of manipulation and control that defined much of her life.
Was on the pain pills. I did have doctors just writing prescriptions after prescriptions. And all of a sudden, it becomes a vicious cycle as they were giving me the pain meds. I was in crazy pain. I couldn't function. But as soon as things started to wind down, you know, they would keep giving me the pain meds. You know, it got to a point where when I had the 10th back surgery, the pharmacy would call me, your prescription's ready.
Now, with the clarity brought by Brooke's new revelations and the perspective that comes from years of reflection and healing, her earlier defense of her father takes on a deeply troubling new meaning. As it turns out, Hulk Hogan had his own demons, hidden behind the carefully maintained image of an American hero. While Brooke Hogan's allegations of childhood abuse exposed a shocking level of family dysfunction that stunned fans and the public alike, they revealed only one part of a far more complex and devastating story of personal downfall that had been unfolding for decades. Terry Gene Bollea, the man behind the legendary Hulk Hogan persona, carried countless dark secrets and engaged in destructive behaviors that would ultimately shatter not just his family bonds but also his health, his reputation, and the legacy he had spent a lifetime building. Perhaps the most physically and emotionally destructive of Hogan's struggles was his long-standing addiction to prescription painkillers, a dependency born from the relentless physical punishment of his wrestling career. The man who thrilled millions with his superhuman image and boundless energy was, behind the scenes, trapped in a cycle of chronic pain and addiction that permeated every corner of his existence. In a resurfaced interview that offers chilling insight into the extent of his dependency, Hogan himself described the relentless loop of pain, medication, and exhaustion that dominated his life for years. It was a cycle that not only consumed his health, but also robbed him of the ability to be a stable, present father during the most crucial years of his children's lives.
And I would go like a dog chasing a bone, I'd go pick it up. And then finally, I just looked at myself and I said, I'm not in pain. You know, I don't need this. You know, my body hurts from all the wrestling injuries, but I'm not in this excruciating pain that I can't live with. I can live with this, the amount of pain.
The continuation of Hogan's addiction story reveals a psychological dependency that extended far beyond any legitimate medical need. What began as a means to manage the unbearable physical pain of years spent in the wrestling ring gradually evolved into an emotional crutch, a way to numb not just his body but his mind. The painkillers became a coping mechanism for the growing emptiness and disillusionment that accompanied the decline of his fame, the collapse of his marriage, and the erosion of his carefully built public image. Friends and colleagues would later describe a man who seemed trapped between two worlds, the unstoppable larger-than-life hero that millions adored and the fragile, deeply insecure individual struggling to maintain control behind closed doors. His reliance on medication blurred the line between physical necessity and emotional escape, creating a downward spiral that would leave lasting scars on his personal life. This dependency not only affected Hogan's own well-being but also contributed to the chaos within his household. His mood swings, erratic behavior, and emotional distance reflected a man who was no longer in control of his own reality. For Brooke and the rest of the family, this meant living in a constant state of uncertainty, never knowing which version of Hulk Hogan or Terry Bollea they would encounter on any given